Hello, this is Rex from Rex Recites. On the video today, I'm going to quote you several little poems scattered throughout my 70 years or so from the time I was graduated from high school, and give you an idea of some of the things that I experienced along the way. I'm going to start with a little poem that I wrote a few months ago, for which I have two varying titles. Sometimes I call it I Conned Mother Nature. Sometimes I call it My Life in 2 Minutes. So today we'll use My Life in 2 Minutes for it. Okay, so here we go. I have reached the age of 92, and boy, oh boy, has the time has really flew. Sailor, soldier, preacher, teacher, I've tried my hand at them all, but my 33 years as leecher has of all been the biggest ball. 3 offspring came along, all akimber, who produced in their turn 4 grandkinder, one of whom, lo and behold, had 2 great-grandbabes to round out the years that are to me due. 50 years long was my first wedded span, followed by 18 as a yet delighted man. I've had 2 lovely English wives, you see, each in her time, all the world to me. I must include my 2 main part-time delights, graphology and memory techniques, super insights, both of which furnished finesse and valuable foresights to my above-named successive livelihood endeavors, to which I bade farewell for retirement favors. Okay, this is a broad outline. Now I'm going to fill in a few little details, and I'm going to start by my graduation from high school, and a few months afterward I went up and volunteered for the Navy because draft time was approaching for me and I didn't want to go into the Army. So about the middle of 1943 I joined the Navy, and in a few months they sent me over to England to a supply base on the outskirts of the city of Exeter, played a pivotal role in the invasion back in June 44. I was sent over in November 44. And after a couple of weeks that I was there, I met a local girl named Barbara, and we clicked off and began going out together. And often I would walk to her house at the end of the day's work, a typical English neighborhood where kids would be playing around in the streets. And of course I was in uniform, and they would see me coming, and we would speak to one another. And after 2 or 3 times of doing that, I began to take candy and other kinds of treats to give to the kids. Now I was at the time 19 or 20 years old, and some of the kids were only 4 or 5 years younger than I was. They varied in age from about 8 or 10 to about 14 or 15. And so anyway, this is one of my pleasant memories of my time in Exeter. And a while back I wrote a poem about this experience. As I walked down my wooing street, Barbara to court, I would give out candy and treats to the urchins holding fort. If out of the many only 1 or 2 would me espy, and "Here comes the Yank" would be loudly yelled clear, and the hordes would magically appear. So they enjoyed that little odyssey of mine as much as I did. So the war ended, of course, shortly after that, and in about April 46, the Navy sent us back to this country. Well, I mean, I sent back. Of course, Barbara had never been out of England before. And we lived our lives here the next 39 or 40 years. And now I'm going to skip to my retirement party from West Babylon High School, where I taught high school English. Before this time, of course, I had been a preacher, as I mentioned in the poem before. However, at this retirement party, I had a yearbook of that year. It was red, the cover was red. And I wrote a couple of little verses for the delectation of the people there who were attending my party. I wrote a little poem and pasted it on the front of my yearbook, and one of them said, "To my staff and distaff friends, if any, who still have every faculty." And I hope you picked up my 2 puns there. And then I continued with another little verse. "This little red book of Rex Smith lies awaiting your moments of pith. So kindly write, if you will, so that wisdom doth fill this book like an old monolith." And so we had a great time at this retirement party. But now I have to skip some more, quite a few years, to bring up the next thing that I want to call to your attention. The other little poem that I had pasted on the cover of this book goes like this. "There is something which, I confess, I dislike. For over 59 years I have come down the pike, but I'll be around a few more. No, I'll be around for more than a score, because on life's road I still have a long hike." Now in this little verse, I forecast that I would live at least 20 years after the age of 59, you know. And I was a little bit reckless maybe in doing this, because I remember that some people who retired 2 or 3 years before I did, a couple of them died before a year was out. So I was pretty rash in making this prediction. However, a little while back I was thinking about that, and I thought I'd better write another little verse to finish out this thought. And so the other little verse goes like this. 59 plus a score is 79. So at 92 I've had 13 more years to pine, and they were among the finest of the fine. And my still future time excursions will be of highly optimistic incursions. And so this sort of finishes out the idea that I had started with there. Okay, now we're going to skip a long period of time again from my retirement back to the time, we're coming back to the 1900s, about 1995. And when Barbara died of cancer in the year of 1995, and I decided a year later to take my last visit to England. And so I went over there for a short visit, and a day and a half before I had to come back home, I met through mutual friends a lady named Joyce. And I have a couple of little verses that just give my reaction to the first time I saw Joyce. And that's the name of the first poem. Upon the first time I saw Joyce. "Gee whiz," I exulted to me, "I've just had a glorious epiphany. The meaning of love at first sight has exploded to me. I did pray that this would not be in the realm of fantasy, and indeed, it turned out to be 19 years of marvelous reality. Now, another little ditty that I've composed for the same event, the same era, is entitled A Frisky Young Yank. I live in a town in the state of Washington called Issaquah, and Washington is abbreviation is W-A, pronounced WA, and Blighty, B-L-I-G-H-T-Y, is a nickname for England. And so, a frisky young Yank from Issaquah, WA, hied to Blighty for a short visit one day. There he met a beauty who made him say, "Yah." Yah means gee whiz. So he said, "Won't you marry me, please?" And their address was Cloud 9, Land, La La. And so my short visit to England turned out to be a 19-year stay with Joyce. And then in 2014, in May 2014, Joyce also died of cancer. And I came back to Issaquah. I lived 3 weeks with my daughter Sheila and her husband Doug. And the main thing we did during those 3 weeks was to look at 3 different retirement compounds, and we decided to move into the one called Bellwood. Yeah, so I've also written a little poem about my coming to Bellwood, my retirement home in Issaquah, from England. And I must say before this that I lived on the street there with Joyce. The street was named Kingsway, and I moved into apartment 114 in Bellwood, and of course sometimes we refer to this as 114. So here we go. 2 years ago I hailed from Blighty to Bellwood, having to leave Kingsway there, but my knighthood kindly followed me to 114 in this realm good, so I'm planning to stay here for my old agehood. So now this has brought me to Bellwood, and now I'm going to leave poems for a minute and read a bit from a sheet here, and you'll see the text on the screen. And the first was entitled "Meet Rex Smith." A warm Bellwood welcome to Rex Smith, who is moving into number 114 today. And then we go on for several lines, but now I want you please to look at the last little paragraph. During his recent stay at Bellwood, he charmed staff and residents alike with his quick wit, warm personality, and ready smile. Now you can't get any better compliments than that. I'd been here only a few weeks when I gave my first program, a presentation by Rex, "What does your handwriting say about you?" And as a result of this program, over the next, it went on for almost a year, I did brief written analyses of about 60 residents and staff as one result of the program. And then you'll see at the bottom here a little paragraph entitled "Waking Your Little Gray Cells." And so I did a program about memory aids, memory techniques, which I've been using and teaching for some 60 years now. And I also, as you know, if you've seen any of my videos, that I memorize and recite a lot of poetry, and I've done this several times in Bellwood, and you'll see the expression up there, "Poetry Out Loud." It says, Rex Smith is teaming up with the programs department to bring us the first ever Bell Talks. And this is a rendition, a play on the word TED Talks, which you might be familiar with. And so on this particular date, it says, enjoy an hour in the Copper River Club with a visual and audio treat. Poetry at its best, set to a stunning visual display. And then at the very end, says, thank you to Rex for his beautiful recitation of Edna St. Vincent Millay's poem, Renaissance. These are excerpts from the first 2 pages of the log that I kept for my first several months here, about a 16-page record of the different things that I have done here. Now, one thing that Bellwood does is bring in various professional people, for example, a podiatrist, a foot care specialist, and also a masseuse. And they come about twice a month, and I've been getting massages from our masseuse now for about 2 years. And her name is Kim, K-I-M, last name is McManus. So, my 8:40 alarm is the massage to go to Kim for my bi-weekly massage. When we go there, she, last name McManus, thoroughly knows how to hand us. We leave her kindly ministration with our cramps and knots in mitigation until our next to her legation to redrive our kinks to cessation. Now that you've heard the poem, and you probably have noticed the title of it on the screen, you see why I have entitled it The Kink and I. I hope you've enjoyed this series of little poems and have a better idea of the different things I have been up to for the past 92 years. And if you haven't done so, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe below. Thank you. Goodbye.